Yes, you are now listening to the sound of Sports Reports is Ordered. And yo, I've been watching all this media picking Kansas City to win the Super Bowl. San Francisco out here feeling like Antonio Gates. Tonight, we going to preview this here Super Bowl. We going to talk about who's going to win this game and what it means for either team if they win. And then we're going to recap the thing that we had yesterday that impersonated a trade deadline. We're going to talk about that. But do me a favor. Some likes, some subscribes, some sharing. It's all free. We're in your building. The one and only. World famous. Even killed. Virginia born. New Jerusalem representing. Veteran. Dedicated father. And I'm sorry, United States Air Force, he's not coming back.
I ain't coming back. Don't send me no emails. I ain't coming back for nothing.
He's carrying the torch all the way from Trenton to Teaneck with a stop in Millville. Don't bring feelings to a fact fight.
Not at all.
Mr. Logic.
Not at all. Don't hit me with no emails. No emails, baby. I'm out. I ain't coming back. I don't think anybody's coming back. I told my father today, like, I'm going to get a job as a consultant for the Air Force, and all I'm going to do is sit in meetings in the back and say, that's stupid. Don't even put that out.
And yo, coming to you live from the Alamo. Come and take it. Be more representing, whether it's Morgan State, Coppin State, the Terps, even UMES, Loyola, Towson, UMBC. Ask Virginia about them. I am 2'5". And yes, I represent Mount St. Mary's too. So we're going to get this thing started with my favorite thing called Get It Off My Chest. So, as Sports Reports is Ordered tells you all, get it off my chest doesn't have to be negative. It's just more fun when it is.
Sometimes.
You know, I try to be positive. You know, I could have came on here and talked about the one and only late, great Kobe Bryant. But sometimes I still get a little choked up when I see him or when I hear his name. I turned on the TV today and he was just on there talking and I was like, who did that? You know what I'm saying? So I ain't even ready to go there. But what I am going to talk about is something that me and Mr. Logical has brought up before. It's a question. Boxing, what the hell you doing? So I appreciate title fights on ESPN with known fighters. I appreciate it. On a Thursday night, though, like, main event was what? Probably like 11:30 East Coast time or so, somewhere around there. But then that's not the part that got me egged, though. This is the part that got me aggravated, though. I'm you know, said back in the day, I'm vexed right now.
Oh, vexed.
Yeah, because I was watching Teofimo Lopez and Jermaine Ortiz fight last night on ESPN. And this was a great fight if you're into boxing. Now listen to what I'm saying. If you want to see a fight, this was not it. But if you're into the sweet science, strategy, and footwork, tap 2 times and back up, this was your fight. But of course, we can't enjoy boxing without talking about the judges. Because I don't know how the hell you outland somebody and lose the fight 117 to 111. Now, granted, he only outlanded him by like 4 or something like that, but still. But as I was watching this fight, I had a bad boxing memory. It was around 2001 or so. I was watching Oscar De La Hoya against Tito. You know, you remember Tito? You know what I'm saying? They Trinidad, they were fighting, and Oscar dominated them for the first 5 or 6 rounds of the fight. And then he started doing some cardio, dancing around the rest of the fight. Tito was coming forward, not landing a damn thing, but he was the most
aggressive.
Right, he was the aggressive fighter, so they gave him the fight. So when I was watching last night, Teofimo became the aggressor later in the fight because I think Jermaine Ortiz thought, which he should have been correct, that he had probably won 5 out of the first 6 rounds. But the problem was he was trying to be Floyd Mayweather, throw a couple of times shots, get up out of there. But the difference was Floyd was landing them. Floyd was otherworldly accurate. He wasn't. Tio didn't even let loose in this fight until the final minute of the fight. So this is my problem. This is the crux of my get it off my chest. Don't tell me the challenger didn't do enough to beat the champion when the champion didn't do enough to prove that he was the champion.
You know, boxing, man. It's the same. It's the same story every time. These guys can't put themselves in a position where they come down the list because they don't make fights. We just saw Shakur retire a couple weeks ago, and from what I read, it was more of the business of boxing. And then we got Haney and Garcia that made the fight in April. So it's like, why aren't we getting these fights? Because they talk enough. They talk enough shit to each other. They know each other. They've known each other through different boxing rounds and different pieces. So it's like, go for it, go. But they can't because the way boxing is set up, I can't even look bad in a fight, or I can't go up in weight, or I can't allow you to fight at a weight you're comfortable at, and I'll meet you. Whatever the case may be, it's like they keep putting themselves in a position where I got to set up every domino to where it's leaning towards me having the advantage before the training even starts. And everyone's trying to work these advantages into contracts and everything else. So having a fight on a Thursday was probably just to check this box off.
Right.
Let's check this box off so we can keep doing whatever boxing wants. And that's the problem, because UFC, Dana White, for you could love him or hate him, he has like that same kind of bravado, egomaniacal kind of behavior that we expect out of UFC, because people kind of treat the UFC like it's a grudge match, like it's a street fight. He has that street fight kind of personality. I don't know who's in charge of these boxing organizations. You hear about the promoters, but I don't know who, I don't know who the guy is that is the
head of the WBC
or
whatever.
The head of the WBC, the guy who says, okay, this is the fight, this is the date, this is the location. Well, I don't know who these people are.
Well, I know that
I think because of that, there's no person it's not personable.
Well, I know this week,
no one to root for or against.
Well, I know this week Bud Crawford has been saying, like, me and Canelo have to make this happen. Like, this is the biggest fight that's out there. And the thing is that I don't want you to make a fight just because it's the biggest fight. You know what I mean? Like, I want you to make a fight that makes sense. Like, to me, and I'm no boxing aficionado. I love boxing. I love watching it. Been watching it since I was a little kid. But I wouldn't dare call myself an aficionado. Yeah. But, like, you know what I'm saying? But when I think about it, I'm like, why Shakur got to retire? He should be fighting Tank right now. You know, or Haney and Garcia's cool, but Garcia lost the Tank. So, like, there's a pecking order, or at least there should be.
But that's the thing. That pecking order is the problem. The pecking order doesn't make sense because there's so many different organizations that give out belts. And I'm pretty sure, like I said, not aficionado. I imagine that the stipulations that govern the rankings for each one of these organizations are probably different.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I said, it doesn't seem or feel as if there's a real flow to the decision making. So you have some of these guys Tank, like I think it's Abdul Wahad.
Yeah.
His fights, Like him and Garcia, he said years ago that dude's not ready for me. His tendencies are so bad, I tear him apart. But just the years of the showing up to different events, putting it on Instagram, putting it on Twitter/X, whatever the case may be, I think that kind of built it to a fight that the rest of those guys should have just ran with that momentum. Because the heavyweight fights, we're losing our Tyson Fury Wilder. That was the fight that became very one sided very quickly. Anthony Joshua was supposed to be the next guy. That hasn't worked. Deontay Wilder, you can tell when he got punched in the face in his last fight. Literally, he got shut out in a 12-round fight. That he might be done. So these smaller guys, the guys that I think people see on social media more, they had a great opportunity to just run it. What Bud Crawford did to Errol Spence.
Yeah, I was just about to ask, where's Errol Spence?
Do the rematch. Get yourself right and do the rematch, because I'm thinking like this. He beat you so bad in the first fight that I think the rematch, you might have an advantage. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. But you're playing with house money. Because he can't come out and it be closer than it was last time because he dominated so bad. So, like, I think it allowed him to be a little bit more free, because, like, you lost to a dude that beat you badly before. You had to regroup, and he came back and beat you again. Then the information is just, he's better than me. But if you come back and beat him, then the first fight's going to look like a fluke. You know, so then you get the third rematch. So while that's happening, let me get Garcia and Abdul Wahad again. And then let me get Haney, Shakir. Like, they could have cornered the market for the next, from the time the Bud Crawford fight ended, these other two fights could have been made. Errol Spence Bud Crawford rematch could have happened already. And I mean, it's just like they could have been the center focus of boxing.
And apparently
Jake Paul took it over for like a year. All of 2023, all we talked about was Jake Paul.
Apparently, I need to watch more TV, because I didn't even know that the Teofimo Lopez fight was last night until the day before. You know what I mean? Like, because it's just weird on a Thursday anyway. But I know Keith Thurman.
They could have fought on Saturday. It's not like the Super Bowl is going to take away from that.
Yeah, I know Keith Thurman is fighting next month against Tim Tszyu. Haney and Garcia in April. You know, so I mean, I guess we got a chance here, but I haven't heard anything about Spence. You know, Bud is out here calling out Canelo, so I don't even know who the next challenger in his division is. You know, so like, I don't know where we're going.
So like, we got the names that we know, those guys got to put the show on, because if you want, I think a lot of it probably
Boots wanted to fight him. Boots Ennis wanted to fight him, but Bud, you know, I guess isn't looking at that right now,
because you can't lose. It's just, boxing just needs a better structure to the win-loss.
You know what boxing is? Boxing then turned into everybody trying to duck Boise State. Like, I remember everybody was complaining about Boise State. They're so overrated. Oh, they play in that weak conference. It's like, well, Ohio State put them on the schedule. Like 9 out of 10, you're going to have them come to the big house anyway, or it's going to be neutral site. You're not going to Boise. So, like, why don't you beat them and we don't even have to talk about them anymore? You know, that is that simple.
You could just beat Monroe State University of Technology or whatever and your championship.
So, Mr. Logical.
Ooh.
Speaking of advertising, you know, we do have a league that got it right. There's a game on Sunday. It's a rematch from a Super Bowl 4 years ago. Is this game going to be any different than that game?
I've been predicting a score with like my head, not really like not really my head, not intelligently. Like, I just kind of just like winging it. It's like, you know what, it's gonna be a blowout, because most people don't call blowouts. I've been thinking about it, and I'm just gonna stand on it. I got KC winning 31-17. Very similar to the New Orleans Indianapolis game. I'm thinking a mistake turns the tide. I got Kansas City getting an early turnover because Brock Purdy, like, people call him a system quarterback, game manager, not game changer. All this stuff that's irrelevant. He throws the ball with great anticipation. Certain routes to Kittle and Ayuk, a lot of seams, a lot of passes in between, like over the linebacker, underneath the safety. Great passes. I just think with 2 weeks to prepare, Spags is going to either pressure him up front and create a bad throw, or just do such a good job disguising his coverage. Because, like we talked about Brock Purdy and the 49ers, when they are behind or like kind of in the struggle, you go with what you know. So if you get down in that 10-0, you're 10-0, maybe 14-0 in the second quarter, it's like, okay, we need to make a play. What do we have? Like, what plays do we have? Well, I'm pretty sure the analytics guys know, hey, San Francisco has like eight go-to plays in these situations. I'm just throwing out an arbitrary number. And Spag's like, all right, bet. So when we get this look, you, free safety, I want you on the snap of the ball to just come firing down here. Because this is his first read here. This is the second one. And by then, I'm going to get Tranquil or Bolton in one of these gaps to get the pressure on.
Big game Bolton.
I think a couple of those plays happen early. I think Kansas City, because Kansas City, we think it's all Patrick Mahomes. And we think it's going to be Mahomes and Kelsey. But if it is, those guys don't run traditional routes. Kelsey does a lot of stuff where he just like runs and he looks and he's like, I think Patrick's going to throw me this ball. Because I've seen like a couple of times where they're mic'd up. Like Kelsey ran a route. He was in the end zone. And he like did this and just turned around and the ball was there. And then they went to the sideline. He's like, how'd you know I was going to do that? He's like, how'd you know I was going to do it? He's like, I know, I just felt like he was going to turn around. I was like, so I threw it. He's like, yeah, when I turned around, it was right on me. Kelsey does that a lot. So if I know San Francisco doesn't like to blitz, they like to get there with their front four. Well, if Chase Young is not giving you the effort, that might give Mahomes another second to slide, Kelsey to slide over. Now that 3rd and 7 is a 13-yard gain, and they're moving and grooving. So I like if it's San Francisco, I'm thinking there's going to be a lot of stuff to McCaffrey in the flats because Baltimore did not take advantage of that at all. So if Kyle Shanahan can see that and Brock Purdy can see that and they can go to that, then I think they can keep drives going. I just have a feeling that seam route that I always like to throw, Brock Purdy's going to throw it into one of the safeties.
So I've been going back and forth on this game like it's a SAT question. Like literally ever since San Francisco won the NFC Championship game, I've been dreading having to have this conversation because I have no idea who's going to win this game. Like, if I just go by our theory, the simplest answer is the best answer, then I feel like San Francisco has to win. Because I feel that San Francisco has more playmakers, offensively and defensively. Now, Kansas City has the better defense. The people that you named, Tranquil, Jones, Bolton, Snead, McDuffie, they have players. But San Francisco has a Fred Warner. They have a Greenlaw. They have a Bosa, who I believe is going to have a great game this weekend. He's going to abuse Kansas City's offensive line, in my opinion.
But if we think about this real quick, Detroit did score 24 points rather easily in the first half on this playmaking defense.
We're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that.
Just throwing out there.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that. These two teams did play last year. Obviously this was before Brock Purdy. Jimmy Garoppolo had a 300-yard game, but the Chiefs walked away with a 3-touchdown victory because they attacked the perimeter. people like Nicole Hardman, the ghost of Nicole Hardman and all that, throwing it out in the jet sweeps to the sidelines, screen passes, all these type of things to take advantage of what San Francisco does defensively. Now, to your point, San Francisco is going to do the same thing, but the difference is that I don't think San Francisco is going to be able to just sit back and point out where the blitz is coming from accurately every time. The good news is Brock Purdy's the best quarterback statistically against the blitz this year. He's also completing 62.3% of his deep passes. So no quarterback, I've said this a couple of weeks in a row now, no quarterback has thrown for 300 yards against Kansas City. So this is my question. Can Kansas City get there in their base? Because I know Spags likes to play a lot of nickel, little bit of dime, and bring some blitzes out of that. They're not going to be able to do that because McCaffrey's going to eat all day if they do that. So they're going to have to stick into that 4-3, and they're going to have to get pressure more traditionally than he may want to.
I think he can stick with the nickel because you're going to want to put a defensive back on McCaffrey as much as possible. You're going to want to limit how many times you have a linebacker in space trying to, defend an option route with Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey.
Right.
So I think you're going to have a lot of, defensive, a lot of your nickel backs are going to play a huge role in this game.
Mm-hmm.
But just looking at, granted, it was a couple like screenshots of the Baltimore game after the fact, but even while I was watching it, it felt like they did a good job keeping Lamar in the pocket with their front four. Very disciplined rushing. It felt like they were like kind of dancing, like to get back to Lamar. And then Lamar was helping them by not
by running backwards.
Not running backwards or just
sideways.
If he drops back a couple more yards because he is dynamic. If he drops back just a little bit, then maybe somebody opens up a rush lane for him. And then he can scramble because it wasn't that much going on in the flats defensively because we saw in a few plays, like I said, that, he get it to run back in the flats. They were getting first downs. I think San Francisco will target that. But that whole, we haven't had a 300-yard passer against Kansas City. I don't know if I've seen Brock Purdy or Kyle Shanahan like hold back. Whereas we saw Kansas City, once they got their 2-possession lead against Baltimore, it was very deliberate that they didn't take any shots.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't take anything over the top. I don't think they threw I think the deepest route I've seen them throw in the second half was that last play to MVS when Baltimore was coming.
Well, there will be opportunity because Kansas City does a lot of split safety. So there will be a chance for that. It's just going to be, is Brock Purdy going to have the time to get it?
Or is he going to take the bait?
Is he going to take the bait?
Is he going to take the bait? Because I don't know if San Francisco is really going to, because you can't zone up against Mahomes because his favorite target is a zone buster by attribute and by position because he's a tight end.
Right.
The tight end, I know they have Gray and they run Bell, the big guy, and then Watson runs a lot of like the Kadarius Toney routes. As a tight end, he's running more deeper routes. But they're not gonna, I won't say waste a corner. I think San Francisco will be good with the safety out there on him if he's in the slot, if he's running a deep route.
Right.
But with Kelsey being in the middle, that's the damaging part because, I said, they don't run traditional routes between those two. And then then Watson's a big tight end. He gets on top of a safety. Mahomes is throw it to him. He trusts him.
Well, I will see
these guys to get.
Well, I will
get
see
open.
your Kelsey, and I will raise you a Kittle because I think Kittle's going to have a good game in this game as well. But to answer your question, to get back to what we were talking about or what we were about to talk about, San Francisco's in their 2 playoff games have given up 159 yards per game rushing, and they came into the playoff the 3rd best rushing defense in the league. They gave up 5.6 carries yards per carry combined to Detroit and Green Bay. But I think this is the problem, and this is the solution. So if Jerick McKinnon is available, I think that's another weapon that Kansas City can deploy, obviously to a lesser degree, but in the McCaffrey mold. The guy that can get outside, catch the flat, get upfield. I don't know if Pacheco's that guy, and I don't think that Kansas City is going to have success trying to run directly at San Francisco, because the thing about Detroit,
they'll do direct snaps for Pacheco. I think that's going to be the wrinkle for him.
So the thing about Detroit and Green Bay, Green Bay had Aaron Jones and Detroit had Gibbs and Montgomery. I just don't know if, one, Pacheco is that caliber of back, and then two, if Pacheco has that type of speed.
That's the thing, he has power.
He does have power, but
that's the thing. He has power to the hole. So that's the advantage. So yeah, you might have speed to stretch. Kansas City will throw it on 4th and 2. They'll throw it on 3rd and 1. They're running on 3rd and 1. They're running on 3rd and 6. They'll go direct snap. I think that Pacheco just runs so hard. And low key, Edwards-Helaire, I was like, I just wish they had a different back. In the playoffs, I've watched, they run the same kind of, they call it the same kind of run plays when he's in there, because it's the same battering ram. Because I think Kansas City has adjusted to, we don't have the dynamic playmakers all over the field like these other teams that we played. They didn't have Waddle and Claypool as a speed guy and a big guy. And then you throw Hill and then Mostert into that mix. They have guys like Bell, who was a college quarterback at Oklahoma. And then you got Gray. They look pretty much the same, 81, 83. And then you get Watson. So then you have Kelsey, but their outside threats are just not as dynamic.
Well, that was going to be my next question.
They've done that in the playoffs, but I think they've adjusted to not throwing the ball 40 times.
Well, that was going to be my next question: is, can Rashee Rice win enough battles against former Chief Ward? That's going to be a question that I think comes into play in determining the result of this game as well.
If they go man, they're going to. Then this is the thing. I think if they go man, when Miami gets man defense, or Cincinnati gets man defense, or even like Chicago, these teams with these dynamic wide receivers, it's go routes. They want to go over the top every time. When Kansas City gets man, they do like the pick routes a lot. So you end up with a lot of drag routes. So you'll have 2 tight ends standing up with Rashee Rice in there, and then one of them runs off. They're just big bodies. They just happen to get a little chicken wing in there in the flow. Now you got Ward. He has to fight either underneath or over top. And it's like, why run it deep and give him an opportunity to run underneath the ball? Mahomes is going to just give him that drag route, right behind, right in front of the linebackers, and can you turn it upfield? Because that's how he got his touchdown against Miami, Rashee Rice, and then you see how quickly, and then the BS hold call they called against Baltimore, they went bunch left, got it to him quick. So you neutralize the defender. Like the cornerback is of no use. His coverage skills are of no use if I get the ball out quick.
So then my other question was, is Kyle Shanahan still at war with himself?
I don't know if that. I mean, we saw it with some guys throughout, different sports. Like LeBron talked about how he needed a sports psychologist after the Dallas series, and he needed to kind of like wrap his head around it. We saw the documentary with Kirk Cousins, and he was constantly trying to get just reaffirmation of his skills and his talent, and he was constantly just talking. So I don't know if Kyle Shanahan is going to think like, oh man, I can't let this happen again, because he can't do anything about those games.
Right. He's not on the field, but
he's not on the field. And I'm just saying, the results of those games are 2, 3, 4 years ago. Historically, yeah, we'll talk about it, but I don't know if he goes into the game thinking to himself,
he still does crazy stuff though. Like when Debo got hurt, he was trying to run Debo plays with Jawan Jennings. Like he's still it doesn't have to be, should we run the ball or not, or should we he just makes odd decisions. It's almost like that whole smartest guy in the room thing where it's like they'll never expect me to do this, and it's like, yeah, they don't expect you to do that because it's dumb.
It's probably, it's probably not going to work.
It has nothing to do with you.
I was watching highlights yesterday.
Us. It's just dumb.
I was watching highlights yesterday when Atlanta was up 28-12 with 8 minutes and 30 seconds left. It was 3rd and 1 from their own, like 40, give or take. Called the pass play, and that's when Matt Ryan got sacked and fumbled.
Right.
And I didn't. I've kind of like watched a lot of that game out of my head, but every once in a while it pops up on one of these compilations that I like so much. And I was like, why wouldn't you just run the ball there? Because even if you don't get it, you're punting it way down the field.
Even if it's just a quarterback sneak.
Like, and Devontae Freeman was killing him. Tevin Coleman was killing him. It's like,
yeah.
But like you said, smartest guy in the room. No one's going to expect me to call this pass route. And then when the Julio caught the ball at the 22-yard line after that, I was like, okay, cool. You didn't learn your lesson from the last drive. Now you close it out, because now it's 28 to 20 because you gave him the ball at the 30-yard line off the strip sack. Nah, we're gonna do it again, and it's just like,
right.
He has to have learned by then.
You would hope
from
so.
that.
Just like Chase Young, you brought up Chase Young. You would hope that with all the talk and talking about benching him, you would hope that on the biggest stage, he would want to reverse that thought process.
You think he would want to be Von Miller in this scenario?
Yeah, you would think so. You know what I mean? But obviously if I'm Kansas City, I'm gonna make him prove it. It's time to show and prove.
Who do you because I know Philly did this last year against Bosa, where they just basically left him unblocked and ran right at him. So it just they kept putting him in no man's land.
Mm-hmm.
I think Andy Reid, Nagy, and I think those guys can really come up with schemes like that, because they have too much talent up front between Gregory. He's a top 10 talent, Chase Young and Bosa, Greenlaw, Warner. Like it's chaotic what they have. I just think that this playoff run has kind of shown that Kansas City doesn't care what the pundits say. Now everyone's jumping back on, myself included, as far as like
well, it's like judo. It's like judo. You use the person's momentum against them. So use San Francisco's momentum against them. If they're aggressive, make them pay for it with short stuff that you can, turn a 3-yard gain into a 6-yard gain. Things like that. Chew up a little bit of clock. San Francisco. So San Francisco cannot be Jekyll and Hyde in this game, because both of their playoff games were at home, and they gave up 26 per game, in those playoff games. But when I look at this, if San Francisco falls behind, they're not going to panic. They've been here. You can't live that way, but they've been there. So coming into the playoffs, there was the question of what happens if Brock Purdy has a hole to climb out of. Can he do it? He's shown that he can. But playing against
he got a lot of help.
But playing against Kansas City. Oh, no, he definitely did. It's a team game. But playing against Kansas City.
I'm talking about from the opponent.
Oh, yeah, that too. But
the opponent gave him opportunities that
San Francisco definitely doesn't want this to come down to a kick, because Jake Moody 1 for 3 between 40 and 49 in the playoffs. You don't want that
in that money.
Around.
Money Moody.
Yeah, Money Moody. So is this Andy Reid's last game? If they win, does he leave? If they lose, does he leave? But if he wins, and this is a little, side conversation we were having before we started.
GOAT talk.
If he wins, I'm doing it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, actually, it don't even matter if he wins. Like, I ain't gonna be that guy. Like, look, he doesn't have the stuff that Belichick has, like as far as Spygate, as far as look at his record without Tom Brady, as far as look at him the last 3 or 4 years. Andy Reid made 5 straight NFC Championship games with the Eagles, made it to a Super Bowl, lost to Tom Brady. So this is what Andy Reid does.
And he made 6 straight. He just made 6 straight AFC Championship
games.
So
he's played in 11 out of something like the last 22 or 23 championship games. He didn't have the Bill Walsh roster. He didn't have the Jimmy Johnson roster this whole time or anything like that. and he played in this free agency constant changeover era. So like,
and he got fired in the middle of it.
and he got fired
So
in the
like that's
middle of it.
like normally when you get fired, you don't get fired and move up. Not like NBA coaches when they get fired and they become like consultants and executives. I mean, you could do
Yeah,
this other job, but we're gonna give you this other one up here, same suits,
right,
same tailor.
right.
So yeah, I mean, I'm so sick of GOAT conversations now because it's the sport's been going on too long and we have too many stats. Like we could talk about, in the hot box group chat, somebody posted the whole Troy Aikman, Andy Dalton. It's just too many stats now, and it's too many
Jay
names.
Lethal.
So it's just like it's so much going on that like the GOAT talks are just getting,
But
they're getting dangerous. But like, I mean, I think what Andy Reid has done in Kansas City, and I know people always want to give one guy more credit. I heard someone today when we went to axe throwing say something, and I wanted to engage it because I thought I heard it correctly, but they alluded to Patrick Mahomes not being as good if he didn't go and play with Andy Reid. I'm like, he's an accurate quarterback.
whatever it is, it's done. Like,
And
I can't take him off of Kansas
every
City.
other team has really, like most teams have a really
Most
good wide
quarterbacks
receiver
are
core.
accurate.
Yeah. He's very accurate. And any other team, like say, if you'd went to that Chicago team, other than Trubisky, you could have made some music happen.
Yeah, him and Mooney would have had some fun, and Cole Kmet.
And then people would have noticed this guy with this arm. Maybe it should come play with him. But yeah. So I like the legacy aspects that can be cemented in this game. Rooting for Brock Purdy is
Mr. Irrelevant. Yeah.
It's such a good story. Like I'm not betting against Brock Purdy because I don't think he's talented. I just think that if you just simply look at how each team plays, one team has just been better at baiting you into bad throws.
Right.
One quarterback has made, like they say, passes that could have been enters or most turnover worthy plays. He's thrown in the coverage. So one team disguises their coverage well. The other guy, the quarterback, throws in the coverage. I think if that happens once or twice, especially in one of those desperate downs at 3rd and 11, you get a holding call, like a first down holding call, like something like that kind of puts you behind the chains, or even a sack. Just one of those drives that is going to happen. Whereas Kansas City, when they came out against in the AFC Championship game, they moved right down the field both drives.
Right.
Then got the turnover, and then they didn't go for. They went for on 4th down, didn't get it, but they looked fluid moving up and down. And then Baltimore did.
Can they win? Can they win 3rd down defensively? They held Baltimore to 3 of 11. San Francisco has been over 50% in the playoffs on 3rd down. So that's going to be a big thing. 57.1 to be exact. So that's going to be a big moment in this game. But you know what? All right. Simplest answer, because I still don't know. The simplest answer is the best answer. So this is what I'm going to do. We saw these two teams play in the Super Bowl 4 years ago. Kansas City is worse on offense, better on defense than they were at that time. San Francisco, I think, is better offensively and defense than they were in that game, and they should have won that game. Now, with that being said, I think the difference between San Francisco and Kansas City's offense, the gap, is bigger than the gap between Kansas City's defense and San Francisco's defense. So, give me the 49ers.
You guys have something interesting to talk about at dinner tomorrow.
Yeah. Give me the 49ers. I'm taking the 49ers. But keeping it in that same vein, Kyle Shanahan, if he wins this Super Bowl, obviously it doesn't take away what he's done in the past. You know what I mean? But, I think that it's going to be ridiculous. I think it's going to be ridiculous. I think
I think it'll be vindication.
I think it'll be vindication too, but I think people are going to take it too far I was shocked by the spread. I saw the last time I saw the spread, it was San Francisco by 2. So I can see a 27-24 type game. I think that's what I'm gonna
I
go with.
think people are picking that because it's just, it's safe.
Well, I mean, San Francisco's the better team. Looking at the totality of the season,
Of the totality of the season,
San
but if we look
Francisco's
at
the
the
better team.
last 3 weeks,
But this is
if we
also the
looked at
thing.
the
San
last, if we
Francisco,
just looked at the playoffs, the post week 18, has
I
San
think,
Francisco looked like how many minutes of San Francisco's games? They played 2 games, right? So that's
yeah,
120 minutes.
yeah,
How many of those minutes have they looked like the better team on the field?
maybe 15. No, actually, I'll give them a little bit more than that because
I'll
the
give them
whole
the
thing
I'll give them the second half.
So
I'll give them
maybe,
the second half.
yeah,
So I give you
so
30 minutes against Detroit,
45,
and I give you
45
8
minutes.
minutes, and I give you 8 to 10 against Green Bay.
I'll say 45 minutes. But I would
I'm
also
making you
say
40. I'm making you a third at a time.
but I would also say that, and I mean, of course, this is just a thought more than it is anything rooted in anything, but I don't think San Francisco can play as bad as they did in those 2 games. Again, I don't think Kansas City can replicate what they did against Buffalo.
What did
You
Green
know,
Bay do that was like so dynamic that had them struggling? Because I keep in mind, if that kicker for Green Bay makes that field goal, San Francisco still needs a touchdown to tie.
mhm.
So it wasn't as if they got to stop
But that's
and
part of
then
why I
got the
like San
ball back.
Francisco though, because like I said, if they get behind, they're not going to panic. They're not going to go, "Oh, Patrick Mahomes is going to bury us." Like they've come back. I'm not saying that you want to live that way and you want to play every game that way, but it's a part of their DNA now, and I don't think they're
I'll
going to
take the
panic.
more consistent team that played with lesser talent
The
in
more
the
consistent team
playoffs,
that didn't score in the second half last week or 2 weeks ago,
but
and and and
they
and
deliberately didn't even try to
and
score. They didn't.
and there's
They
been
didn't even try
3
to
other
score.
occasions this season that they haven't scored in the second half.
Yeah, and I'll give you that. I'll give you that piece. But if you're thinking about wire to wire against
Damn,
Miami,
D'Lo?
oh yeah, he's going off. My stream just stopped, but Miami, granted, it was like negative 21 degrees or something
Right,
crazy.
right.
Buffalo, a nemesis. McCall Hardman doesn't fumble at the goal line. They're going up 11 right there. So he doesn't
Stephon
fumble.
Diggs, Buffalo fake punt. Like, I mean, we could do this all day. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
so like, yeah, so like, I
Kansas
mean,
City, because that's the thing. Okay, let me ask you this real quick. Do you
all right.
think San Francisco's offense is better than Buffalo's?
Yes, because
And
San Francisco
Kansas,
runs the ball, and Christian McCaffrey's a
and it took
better.
Kansas City about 3.5 quarters to stop Buffalo. So while you're talking about consistency, we got to tell the whole story, right? Like,
Yeah,
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, and I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you. You know what I mean? But I'm just saying, like you're looking at it as like,
I
look
look
at
at
all
it
this
like
bad stuff.
I look
San
at it like
Francisco
I
did.
look at it like Kansas City, of all the teams that's in the playoffs, the 14 teams that made it, they probably had the 13th ranked receiving core, maybe 14. I mean, if you maybe Tampa Bay, because Tampa Bay didn't really have like the tight end. If you think
But they
about
got the
like,
baby goat though.
yeah, that's all well and good, but
The
like I
same
said,
way Tom Brady didn't have great receivers. You know what I mean? Like these quarterbacks, these great quarterbacks do this.
yeah, they do.
You know what I mean? I can't expect somebody like Brock Purdy to go with Kansas City's receiving core and get the same results that Mahomes is getting. You know what I mean? But I can put Mahomes, and that's why I don't like when people make these comparisons and they're like, well, Tom Brady did this. Well, yeah, if you're going to compare him to the GOAT, there's no argument. Like,
Yeah,
so you know what I
it's
mean?
very difficult against a guy who has who has 3 Hall of Fame careers rolled into his 121-year career. Like it's just unfair. The thing that I do like, and that when I was watching the Baltimore game and I was looking at it thinking to myself, why did I pick Baltimore? Something about Mahomes' face every drive, it never looks like panic ever. And I thought it would be because they haven't been as explosive offensively this year. His frustration with the ref that one game, I thought that was more frustration with you're frustrated with the ref making the
Frustrated with the
call,
team. You know what I'm
but you're
saying?
frustrated with the fact that this guy once again, for the third time, had a granted he doesn't get that many touches, but like the third time he has had like a negative impact in a scoring play, like
Mm-hmm.
being off sides or dropping interceptions to the laps of the other team, so forth and so on. So I think that might have been part of it, but
Right.
he probably was also like, finally, this guy makes a play, and you, the ref, botched it. But any other time, it just looks like he just comes out. And that's why I said that whole second half, I really felt like when they were up 17-7, they were like, we're not going to do anything to give Baltimore momentum. We're going to keep Baltimore frustrated by just running the ball, holding the clock, watching it tick, because when that clock's going, the pressure's mounting on the
Mm-hmm.
other sideline because they're
Mm-hmm.
down 2 possessions, and they know we need the ball. They've been getting the ball, and they haven't been getting any points. So every Kansas City possession where they would run the ball, get a first down, you're working off 3 minutes. You get a
And
first down, you're working off 3 to 3.5 minutes if you time it right.
and in that same vein, that third quarter, San Francisco against Detroit is the very best of San Francisco. You
And
know,
because
and
Detroit kept giving them the ball.
and
Detroit didn't look at it like
hey,
they
San
didn't look at
Francisco
the
took it
Baltimore.
a couple
They didn't
times.
look at they if they would have looked at the game had just ended. The
I
Baltimore Kansas City game had just ended. If Dan Campbell would have looked at that and said, you know what? We're up 3 possessions. Let's try to maintain and stay up at least 2
remember I
possessions.
told you that right before the playoffs started. I told you, that Dan Campbell does this, and then you
I
told
get that
me
he does
something
that,
along.
but I'm
You
just
told me
talking about
something along
in
the
that
line.
moment. In that moment,
I
like
know, but this is what
we
he does.
have this.
This is what he
You don't need to
does.
do anything different. It's like you just look at it like we just dominated the first half, and then they got back in a position to go back up 17 points. It's like even if your kicker is inconsistent, they come around.
What
Like,
I mean, they
but you got
fumbled
to
on a
put them out
run
there.
play. It's not like Golf was just throwing it
No, no,
up.
no, no,
Like,
no,
you
no,
know
no,
what I
no.
mean?
I'm talking about when San Francisco came out and they got a field goal to be down 14, and then Detroit came back down and got in field goal range where they
Right,
could
and
have
they
just
went
kicked it
for
and
it.
gone
Yeah,
back up 17.
right.
Now you're back
They
up
run
3
those drop the
possessions,
pass. Yeah,
and they ran, they threw like the little pass or whatever. And I get that you like, oh, we can throw and get this yard, but it's like, but you can't go up 3 possessions
but
with that completion. You know what I mean?
to be fair, their kicker has had issues all year too.
Of
Like, I don't want
course,
to make
but
excuses for Dan
I don't
Campbell,
want to
but
make excuses, but it's like
but their kicker has had issues
you're
because
not
they
gonna
missed that field
just
goal.
because you convert that.
But
Just because you convert that
But I
doesn't
think that's
mean
the
that
thing
you're gonna
about
get
sports.
points.
That's the thing about sports, though. If they go kick that field goal and the kicker misses,
He
people
missed
say,
it.
you had a shitty kicker. Why you ain't go for it?
Nah,
That happens.
I don't think. I
The,
mean, I think
the
people would
difference
have done
between
that.
hero and a goat is whether the play succeeds or not.
True. No, because I look at it like this: converting that first down. Like, okay, for instance, if it's like 4th and 4 from the 8, yeah, you could you a 4th and 3 from the 8. You probably have a 4-yard play in your bag, but completing that 3 yards doesn't get you points. It's like we're at this point now. Let's just go ahead and get these points.
Right.
We're right here. Let's get these points. 4th and 1. I got plenty of 4th and 1 plays.
Right.
I got so many things I can do on 4th and 1. But I'm like, you know what? This is 4th and 3, long 3. It's almost 4. Let's just go ahead and get these points, go on the sideline, put the pressure back on the other team.
Right.
Sometimes you just have to do that because converting that first down, you probably would have been in another position. You had to kick a field goal again. You go just keep going for it on 4th down like it's high school football.
I mean, you run more clock that way, I guess. I don't know, but I agree that they should have went for the points there. Especially on the road against the better team, you're already dominating them.
You keep the
Like,
crowd
don't give
out.
them any life.
Kansas City literally kept the crowd out of the game. They didn't throw. They didn't throw any route in the second half other than the one to MVS when they went zero coverage deep. It's like, we're just going to keep the pressure on because Lamar was lose. Lamar's face was a complete opposite of Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
And the frustration, and then Zay Flowers with the taunting, it just was like that. You knew like that environment was like a powder keg anyway. The fans were waiting to explode. Kansas City was like, we're not going to give you that. Detroit gave the home fans that fuel, that energy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the difference when you talk about when they were running passes with with Jennings and
Only when they were running the Debo plays, yeah.
the Debo plays.
Well, that was against Green Bay, yeah.
Just like Kansas City's not gonna run they're not gonna snap the ball directly to Kelsey and have him run Pacheco plays. I mean, he's not gonna just be getting the ball in the backfield and trying to like run for like they might do some herky jerky stuff like that. Oh,
no, in Vegas, huh?
Yeah. But luckily they're playing indoors. That is crazy. Snow. Such a better.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Shout out, Ray.
But yeah, so just to recap, Mr. Logical is taking Kansas City by 2 touchdowns.
By 2 touchdowns.
Yep. And then I'm taking San Francisco by a field goal because I'm a little bit more of a coward, I guess. I don't know. But yesterday the NBA went through their annual movement, but then of course there wasn't much superstar movement, so it wasn't as fun. But I didn't even care that there wasn't a lot of superstar movement. I just felt there wasn't a lot of good player movement.
I think we're like we talked about this in our pre-meeting. We'll pull up the standings real quick. I think the super team is done. Because if you look across the league, the free agents and the trades of the offseason or even last season. So you got Bradley Beal went to Phoenix. That was a big move. James Harden to LA, Chris Paul. So all of those old head moves, a lot of that super team era, like this, the new wave super team, the post 2014 super team moves, none of them really allow you to have like real depth.
Right.
So most of the teams are now sitting around. You got 2 stars. The top teams, you got 2 stars. And then you have a lot of role players. And it's not that many players to move. And we talk about like the crop of young players that are coming in. They're not as seasoned coming in. So it's not a lot. Like, I don't really want to move. I don't want to move my young guy for your young guy because I'm still working on my young guy. So if I'm still working my guy, how much better could your guy be, or how much better could your 2028 draft pick be than what I currently have here? Like, why even entertain moving these pieces around? It's like, people talk about the Lakers not making a move. Like, okay, so you can move D'Angelo Russell. Like, who you getting back? D'Angelo Russell's been traded like 4 or 5 times in his career.
Well, they wanted DeJounte Murray.
But you're gonna have to mortgage the future for that kind of player. Mm-hmm. And then what you're gonna find yourself is that you're gonna be the only team built like that. Because the Clippers are dangerously close to being one of those teams that just are super top heavy.
Yeah, their dudes are just older.
Yeah, their dudes are just older. Phoenix was the same way. It's like I said, I wasn't a big fan of the move because I thought a lot of those guys were just injury prone. So, but those are your 3 guys that you have. But if you look at Boston they need to really make moves. I think they might make a couple simple things here and there.
Yeah, they got a backup point guard. Another young backup point guard. They Jaden Springer from Philly. They got Xavier Tillman from Memphis, which I think is a good pickup, especially since Horford's just another year older, and with age comes injury sometimes, or just some nicks.
Porzingis need rest.
Yeah, Porzingis is an injury prone guy. So you got another dirty player that'll get down and gritty, play some good defense, in the front court, grab some rebounds. So this is the stuff that even though Boston made moves in the offseason to get Porzingis, to get Drew Holiday, this is the type of move that a championship team makes.
But the thing that Boston has over the rest of these guys is that their two best players are young stars that are seasoned.
Right.
And then you add Porzingis, who is they call him the unicorn.
Right.
So like their philosophy, their recent success, or their essentially consistent success, short of an NBA championship, but they've been consistent every year for the last 5 or 6 years.
Right.
Even with coaches, like they're on their third coach out of this kind of this core group. They traded away Marcus Smart, but they still have that talent. I think what it is, if I'm Dallas, I'm looking at the West like I don't think these teams are that much better than we are. I don't think Dallas is looking at OKC like, man, we are really so far behind them.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of teams I think they're probably planning for, all right, if you're a team that's between 6 and 9 right now, because we're looking at the Jazz potentially like coming back to the mean and then they're going to just kind of fall off. Maybe the Warriors crawl back in, but their guys are really old, and one of their really old guys is like an offensive.
Steph just scored 50 a week ago, and they lost.
Yeah, so Houston, I don't really have them really making a run. So if I'm out west on the Pelicans, Kings, Mavs, Lakers, I'm thinking I get the 6. I'll take on the Thunder, in the first round, or I get if I get the 7 seed, you got to play the play in. You'll play the play in against maybe the Jazz or the Warriors. Like I can handle that. Like, so I don't think any of these teams 6 through 9 really feel like we're that much further behind. Thunder at 3, Clippers at 4, and if you look in the East, it's kind of the same thing. It's a bottleneck. Sixers are like, yeah, we'll make a couple of moves here, but we'll get Embiid back. The Magic are a young team, probably not expected to do much. The Heat are going to just kind of rely on Heat culture. Pacers are a good team, but they're in a situation where you don't want to be 8. You don't want to be 8. I mean, with the Bucks, maybe the Cavaliers slip, but they've already played 3 more games than the Cavs, and they're 3 games behind them, or a game and a half behind. Do you really fear the Knicks in the playoffs? Historically, hasn't really been like their recent history hasn't really been.
No, Anunoby's out for the next 3 weeks with elbow issues. They picked up some shooting yesterday. They got Alex Burks and one of the Bojanoviches.
Yeah.
So the one of them.
People always say like, "Oh yeah, you get the shooting, but it's like, how much you really gonna run that shooting out there just for shooting? Like, I need you to go out there just to shoot. I need you to play defense too.
I don't think that's
sometimes I think it's like people say, "Oh, you got a shooter." Like,
I don't think that's it though. I think you need the shooters to spread the floor, like you know what I mean, to create lanes for people like Brunson and Josh Hart to get to the cup. Like that's what we talk about with the Lakers. It's not necessarily that the Lakers miss a lot of threes or whatever the case may be. It's just that they don't have threats to make the threes, so you can collapse.
Yeah.
And so with the Knicks, with Bogdanovich, if you have him out there with Brunson, with Anunoby, Anunoby can be your de facto Kawhi kind of guy who's not a point guard, but he can handle the ball well enough for the floor to open up. And if it's not there, he's quick enough to get to the basket. The problem is going to be when Julius Randle gets back. That's going to be the problem because he's just going to clog it back up.
He's going to clog it up, and then I'm not sure. I'm going to give the Knicks their due because they are whole. Like they're collective. They have, like you said, like Randall and Anunoby are out, but they don't have anybody like their core guy, similar to like 76ers. Embiid's out.
Right.
We're looking, like I said, our math was like 12, 15, 18 games. So we're in that range.
And it might be more. That's just when they're going to reevaluate them.
That's when they're going to reevaluate. So we pushed out to 6 weeks. So that got us, we averaged like 3 games a week by 18 games.
And that's why I think they feel pretty good about it, because I don't think they make the Buddy Hield deal.
I think 1 through 4 in the East feels good about where they're sitting. I think 5 through 8 are comfortable. I think the 76ers are comfortable because, best case scenario, you drop to 6, or worst case scenario, you drop to 6. You're already at 30 and 21. You get Maxey going, you get, Buddy Hield going, and you just win some scrappy game, real Philadelphia style, real tough, drawn out games, rebound, play hard, play tough defense, timely shots, and you steal a few games. You still got some cupcakes on your schedule. Like, you'll get the game, you'll get some Hornets games, you'll get a couple of Wizards games, you'll get a couple of Pistons games, just mix in there. So you'll get about 6 to 8 potential gimmies.
Right.
If you come out there and play, your B game.
Right.
You play hard, but you only get like 97, 98 points. You're probably still going to beat the Hornets, Wizards, Pistons, maybe even the Raptors with that kind of an output. So that's the luxury you have in the East. But like I said, I can see why teams didn't make a lot of moves. Like, if you just look at the top 4 teams in the West, 36 wins, 35, 34. I believe GMs looked around and was like, we are in the mix. Well, now you're probably going to see a lot of load management, though. That's what we're going to see a lot of.
I think Minnesota addressed something that they needed. They needed a backup point guard, someone else to take the load off of Mike Conley. They got Monte Morris. He's been injured most of this year, but he's back now. He just provides another ball handler. I look at Dallas. You brought up Dallas. I do like Daniel Gafford. He's just another defensive center that can get you, 8 to 10 points. You don't need anything crazy, because he's probably going to be coming off the bench behind anything crazy. You just need solid minutes, especially if Lively gets in foul trouble. But where they upgraded was getting PJ Washington over Grant Williams, because I feel Joe Mazzulla killed Grant Williams. Like, Grant Williams 2 years ago had a really good season, was shooting 41% from 3. He was not necessarily breaking out or anything like that, but he was becoming a solid piece, a solid rotational piece that would prove valuable in the playoffs, because he played some defense.
That was a front office call.
He had tenacity. It probably was to save that money. But
save that money, because if the way he played 2 years ago, they talked about it a lot. Like, Grant Williams is due for a contract extension at the next season. If he keeps playing like this, he's gonna, and I think they were like, we can't pay him and Jalen.
Right. So
he was essentially out of the rotation a lot of times, and then he got in the game and he kept poking Jimmy Butler, so that probably didn't help. So he needed to do something. He was like, I'm barely getting out here. I got to do something. So
3-point shooting fluctuates. You know what I mean? Like, 1 year you might be 38%, then you hit a 42 or something. So 2 years ago, since then, his 3-point percentage has dropped. It dropped last year as well, but since then, it's dropped 4 percentage points. But that's not even the key here. His 2-point percentage is down 8.3% from that season 2 seasons ago.
Well, last year he wasn't allowed to get in the rhythm.
Well, last year he was just allowed to shoot threes, I think. Like,
he like, I remember watching a lot of Boston games, like, because we were doing this. I was just watching these games, and I was thinking, like,
yo, hold on real quick.
Derek White was on the floor a lot.
The Lakers with 83 points in the first half.
What?
How about that?
They scored 50 in the second quarter?
The score is 83-74 with 57 seconds left in the first half.
My stream stopped at the D-Lo got hot.
Yeah, like 85 points. And hold up, Hachimura. The AD, 85. There you go, 85 points with 43 seconds left in the first half. Now watch they finish with like 120 or something. But but yeah, so they had to get off of Grant Williams just because he wasn't providing what they paid him to provide. So I don't know if PJ Washington is going to do that much better, but he will be better. And I don't think Dallas
87 points.
87, yep. And to your point,
this is comical.
I know. But to your point, Dallas isn't necessarily in need of a dude to come out and put up 25 a game or whatever. They got Luka and Kyrie. Tim Hardaway can get hot and get you 19 points. So they're fine offensively, but I think they just need somebody that has their head in the game.
They need a real identity. It seems like that's always a problem with Dallas.
It seems like they're just grabbing players.
They just put dudes out there with shorts and Luka.
It's like, hey, Luka, look,
Luka shoes.
Like, look, Luka, we made a trade. What do you mean we're not putting pieces? We're not building around you. I just got somebody.
They're like, this dude was in line to get popcorn. He's 6'7".
Yeah, like we need that, And then Toronto giving up a first round pick for a 32-year-old backup center.
Is it protected?
I don't believe so, but it's your boy. Your boy Kelly O.
Mr. I ripped Kevin Love's
arm
out of socket and ruined it.
I guess the Raptors should have just got Wiggins. They're trying to put a Canadian team together or something.
Like once they're another one of those teams that just seems to be making moves. Like you could realistically, and I know sometimes it just like we're watching the Charlotte Milwaukee game.
Yeah.
When I got back from the store, and it was all backups. Like Giannis' little brother was out there, and then was a bunch of other dudes, and they were dribbling, and it looked the part until they fire off that three from 25 feet. And it was like, is it that bad? Because I ask this question all the time. It's like the dude at the end of the bench. 6'10", 6'11", NBA player. How come you never in the game and then they all get in the game? And it's like, this doesn't look the same.
Right.
And I think some of the G League starters would probably been better. Like, you're probably better off, instead of making a trade for Olynyk, check the G League availability.
Raptors 905, baby.
Yeah. Your team's affiliate, and see if you can pull a guy up and get him some run.
Yeah, because they're not making the playoffs anyway.
You're not making the playoffs. And then maybe you get him some run. You get a little buzz. And like before the trade deadline, maybe you move his rights or whatever. I don't know how the logistics of that work.
I was trying to figure out why
they just people keep trading for Spencer Dinwiddie.
Yeah, then they waived them. So it sounds like
why is he? It's like if I'm him, I'm like, man, I don't even know if I want to be in this league.
Well, it sounds like he's going to be. It sounds like the leader right now. The thought is he's going to be a Laker. So we'll see.
That's always a thought. He probably going to end up in Phoenix.
But I was going to ask you about Phoenix. So they went out and got Royce O'Neal. What do you think about that?
I mean, you need they call him your 3-and-D guy.
Yeah.
They just need some more. They need people who can save Kevin Durant and Beal and Booker from just having to put out effort every single possession.
Mm-hmm.
You need a guy that allows these guys to take a break on the floor, like in action. Look, like LeBron did it a lot. Steph never does it. Clay kind of does it every once in a while. Draymond does it when he just kind of just.
Clay's been taking a break all season, ain't he?
Like stand there and just kind of pass the ball around, just kind of like that. I'm out here, but I'm taking a break offensively. Kyrie allowed LeBron to do that a lot in Cleveland, where he would just go stand in the corner.
Right.
And you can't leave him because he's LeBron,
right.
But he's literally like, I'm not exhausting any energy. He probably could have got a cup of water from the bench because he just was standing in the corner. Yeah. I think Luka probably should do something like that every once in a while and just let Kyrie do his thing. Like, it would stay completely out of the way. Take these next 2 or 3 possessions off, make it look less obvious, but save your energy. And I think that's what Royce O'Neal does. Like, he gives them the opportunity where they don't have to defend the other guy. Like, they can fight. They can just, instead of switching the screen, they can just let them fight through it instead of having Kevin Durant have the guard. Like when D'Angelo Russell calls him up for the screen or whatever, like LeBron, like KD doesn't have to switch onto him. Like, yo, Royce, just stay out there on him. I don't feel like dealing with this dude who's going to shoot from 27 feet anyway.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out what the Bulls. I mean, I do this every year, try to figure out what the Bulls are doing. DeRozan's a free agent.
They haven't done anything since 2021 at the trade deadline.
Yeah, he's a free agent. They didn't trade him. Caruso allegedly, rumors were like Caruso would have brought you back multiple draft picks. There was first round draft picks. There were some teams interested in Andre Drummond. And they were just like, no, we'll just stay as is,
because they're gonna pay. They're gonna pay to stay where they are. I think they moved Levine this summer. I think they paid DeRozan whatever his NBA PA time frame. Like they have you're at this age, you sign this many, whatever that is. I think they're probably potentially max that out.
And then you liked Pat Bev, the Milwaukee, right?
I like Pat Bev anywhere. Like, you can trade Pat Bev to the 49ers, and I think it's a good move just because I think he'll give you something.
Oh, no matter where you played for the 49ers, I definitely feel more confident about my Super Bowl pick.
I mean, if he was playing like running back for the Chiefs, I'm like, okay, yeah, that dude will run through a brick wall. But like, it's just something. Pat Bev is just one of those guys. He's just a guy you like. I remember for a while I didn't like him because I thought it was like a stick. I thought it was an act.
No, that's him.
And then as more and more, because he gets traded to all these prime. I mean, he's been in LA, the Sixers.
Now, you remember when he won the championship in the play-in
in Minnesota? Like he just. And then watching his podcast now, like him and the dynamic with his host, I just like him. I just think I don't know why he's always a piece that move like him.
Because he's little. And he's a personality, and you know what I mean? Like, it's like you said, it's all about 3 and D to some degree. And he's got the D, he ain't got the 3. Pause. You know what I mean? But as I look at Milwaukee, I felt that they needed a wing defender. I think they needed somebody that can switch positions, so to pause. Switch positions and everything. And so Pat Beverly can't go guard like. I mean, he could stand next to Al Horford, you know what I mean? But if Al Horford comes into the post, there ain't no need for Patrick Beverly right there.
But I think Pat Bev, I think he's one of those guys that I think he gets every ounce of basketball out of his frame.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And sometimes that's all you really need. Their
backcourt was already small, which is part of their defensive problems. And he's smaller than Dame.
Effort.
And
defense is effort, man. Like,
Doc Rivers,
small.
Yo, Glenn, you know what I'm saying? If you listening out there, you know what I mean? Andre Jackson, give him some minutes. Your defense will slightly improve.
That's what I'm saying. Like, there has to be dudes on your roster.
There are.
That can do what, and unless it's that difficult to where these guys are thinking a half second behind, and it's costing you points when you look at the film. It's like, we can't have him out there because he looks.
But that also comes with time, though. They ain't gonna fix it by sitting on the bench. Like, but that's how some of these coaches are. Like Doc Rivers, Larry Brown. They just don't play the rookies. They just, for whatever reason, they just stick with their vets. That's who they trust. Which, I mean, it makes sense to trust a veteran, I guess.
I think putting vets and rookies together is best because you can give minor responsibilities to the rookies and let them master it. The vets know everything that's going on.
Right.
Like, I thought this when Andrew Wiggins got traded for Kevin Love, I was thinking like, LeBron, use that young guy's athleticism.
He could be your Pippen.
Absolutely. With Kyrie.
That's what I thought. And I still, even though they won a championship, I still feel that way today.
I feel like that would have been, they would have been in the finals that year.
They would have still made all the finals that they made.
They would have made all the finals they made.
And Wiggins would have just got better.
Wiggins would have been able to guard Steph.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Wiggins,
hey, to be fair,
he could have guarded Clay.
Kevin
Dellavedova played a
Love
part of it.
guarded Steph.
Dellavedova was in like I watched J.R. Smith talk about it. He was like, man, the dude almost died guarding
Yeah, he
Steph.
almost died. He had to go get IVs.
Yeah, he was like said he was in an ice bath getting IVs, like just. But with that, you could if you would have had Andrew Wiggins, maybe you put Dellavedova on Clay for a few possessions where he just
Right.
has to just worry about the one drill pull up.
And that's the
then
thing about
Andrew Wiggins.
Steph, too. Like, they were trying to call him, like, the Steph stopper. Like, there is no Steph stopper. Like, he just either makes shots or he doesn't. Like, remember when Ruben Patterson was the Kobe stopper?
Yeah.
It's like, go sit, and then Kobe went and dropped 45 on him. But what do you think about Gordon Hayward to OKC?
I like it. I like veterans. I'm a big fan of Gordon Hayward ever since he was at Butler. Talked about the sports science. If that shot was an inch lower,
yeah,
they beat Duke in the national championship game. Then of course Butler goes back playing the Jazz. I just think he's one of those guys that's like he's a pro's pro, a vet, real locker room guy, you know, all the cliches. I just think it's a good move. I think that allows OKC. I think it brings in a level-headed veteran, someone who understands the game, someone who's played a lot.
It's like having a coach in the locker room with you.
Yes, all the time. Guy who's not. He'll play whatever amount of minutes you're going to give him, and he'll play him hard. He'll play him well.
He'll play defense.
He'll play defense. He'll rebound.
He provides shooting. He provides more ball handling to free up Shea a little bit. And, you know, like, I like the fit. The problem is he can't stay on the damn court. Like, he hasn't even played since December 26th.
Well, I mean, he is old. You know, Dame is shooting from 30 feet like it's nothing. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. You know, but yeah, I like it. But like I was telling you,
the young team adds a vet that's not gonna, you know, stunt any of the growth of the young guys. I
think he'll be good for J-Dub too. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I think like, I do like that stuff about it. But like I told you in our pre-meeting, I think I would have liked it better if OKC would have got a bigger body, like a Xavier Tillman or somebody along those lines, because of how bad they are on the boards. So when they get to the playoffs, that's going to be their Achilles heel. It's not going to be, I mean, they're not that great at defense, but that's not going to be what's burying them. It's going to be the second chance points that they're going to be giving up.
But like I said, if you're a GM and you're looking around the league, is like, can my team not outscore this other team? I think so many teams probably feel like, yeah, my team can outscore these guys. Because it's just not that the 3-point shooting, how many teams are shooting the ball well from 3? Like a lot of teams they're going inside. We watch San Antonio, 7'4" guy out there jacking up threes, Chet out there shooting threes. It's like, I think once it boils down to it, people looked at the post All-Star break, load management, keep it close, keep it tight. Don't let anyone get too much space from you. Keep Denver in your sights. You know, if you're Minnesota, you watch Denver. Are they resting guys? Should we rest the guys? Should we, you know, just like that kind of thing. Like, do we play all of our guys so we can get a 2-game lead because they're resting their guys? And I just think that because no one's really separated themselves other than Boston, but like I said, Boston's history hasn't really shown that they can completely run away with it. Like, you can get them in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, they'll get to the Eastern Conference Finals because it's just talent. Like the Hawks series last year should have been a sweep. They won 6 games. So I think teams out in the East probably like, yo, we can get these dudes if we handle our business to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. If we position ourselves where we can get them, you know, if we can get them in the second round or in the Eastern Conference Finals, I think we can win that matchup. I believe a lot of teams felt that way. You could tell by the moves. Not that many teams made moves.
Right. So
So like
I mean, yeah.
that swing, those swing for the fence moves. It's like, nah, I think we're sitting good. I think
Well,
every
I
team
like
for the most
Indiana.
part looked around and was like, I think we're sitting pretty good. We can make a run come April.
I like Indiana. You know, they gave up Buddy Hield, but they got Marcus Morris's expiring contract. You know, they waived Korkmaz, and they that frees up minutes for Matherin, you know, who just scored
Yeah.
31 the other night. You know, Aaron Neesmith has been playing great this season, you know, for what his role is. And then I feel like bringing back Dougie McBuckets, you know, might be the underrated move of the day.
That's a guy like that Cal Korver kind of player.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why more teams don't have that 6'8", 6'7", 6'8" spot up shooter.
Yeah, I mean,
Just
I
because
might like him and Hield together, though. Like, you know what I mean?
because like when you're that big, you're such a threat. Just you're a decent rebounder. If you're a decent rebounder at 6'8", like you can get some rebounds, 3 or 4, and you can shoot the ball. You put pressure on the defense because I got to put a guy out there of some size to match up with you.
Right.
Even if it's not my best defender, I might have to put a guy out there that might not be as quick as you, might not be as big as you. So, but I gotta have him out there. I can't, like we talk about Pat Bev. I can't just run Pat Bev at Cal Korver all game, or those kind of shooters, those 6'7", 6'9" 3-point shooters, like guys that don't dribble a lot. Those catch and shoot guys, like your Michael Porter Jr. kind of players. Like, I just don't know why more teams don't go, because those guys are available. I know Michael Porter Jr. before he signed that contract, you probably could have gotten him for, a player in the first round.
Yeah, he had the injuries and everything. He wasn't commanding what he ended up getting paid.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that's the difference between winning championships, I guess, and being the Chicago Bulls, is that you got to take the risk every now and again. Like, I know, no pun intended, I know you have to use logic, you know what I mean?
True.
But no one has ever been successful without taking risk.
I think Chicago, like the quote that I read, it was like they were deciding whether they were going to enter a rebuild or go forward with the team that they had. So I think they must feel like I think it was the team president. I'm paraphrasing, but he was like, they were figuring out, okay, are we in the middle? Are we going to go rebuild, or are we going to do something else? So I have a feeling that they're going to put themselves in a position to try to land one of these big free agents this summer, or maybe trade for one, get Levine out of there, get him healthy, get him out of there. Probably, like I said, re-sign DeMar, because you talked about it earlier, like the quote you heard on other podcasts about the CBA. I think the owners are starting to get their leverage back on the players.
Mm-hmm.
The superstar is going to get the crazy money. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum are going to get that crazy. You're not going to be able to get 3.
Right.
You're not going to get 3. So I don't want you trying to make a demand for me to go get this third guy, because it's like, we can't pay all of you.
Right. Yeah. So, but yeah, we're starting this second half with the Lakers and the Pelicans. It's so hard after all these years. Like, I still want to, when I see New Orleans, I still want to say the Hornets.
Really?
Yeah. Like, I almost said it just now. That's why I had to pause for a second. Like,
I didn't call them the Hornets when they were in New Orleans. I think Hornets. I think Larry Johnson,
Alonzo Mourning,
and
Curry, Muggsy, Glenn Rice.
Oh, Muggsy Bowles, come on, like
Baltimore, baby, Baltimore.
5'3" in the league.
PJ Brown, David Wesley.
Yo, but he ended up playing for
with the Rockets
when they went down to New Orleans. That's
why. That's right. Yeah, he did.
Yeah, him and David West. So those are the New Orleans Hornets.
David
I didn't recognize them. Yeah,
they had.
I didn't recognize, like, so
Oh,
they were always Charlotte to me. That's why when they was called the Charlotte Bobcats, I'm like, I didn't call them the Bobcats.
Kendall Gill, Bobby.
Fuck Kendall Gill, Villanova, right?
No, Kendall Gill went to Illinois.
No.
Yeah.
Kendall Gill?
Yeah, he went to Illinois.
Did he play with the Nets?
He did.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking. I knew he was like somewhere in this region when I was growing up.
Yeah, he went to Illinois. He was on their Final Four team. Back in the late 80s. Yeah, Bobby Fields and so they had the whole crew, like the best uniforms in the league at the time, saying before Orlando came through with the pinstripes.
Yeah.
Saying? Especially when Orlando came out with the blue joints though.
Orlando with Penny?
Yeah, when they had the blue alternate. Because before they just used to wear the white or the black, and then
white or black when they hit it.
They came out with that blue. That joint was fire.
That's when the phone posits hit. That was supposed to be Scottie Pippen's shoe.
Yeah, I remember he had them big ugly shoes with the big ass arrow.
Those came back for a little buzz.
Yeah, because people are sick. That's why. But I am sick whenever Sports Reports is ordered is not around. So I know how y'all feel. I know how your grandma feels. You know what I'm saying? But programming note, you know what I'm saying? We'll be back on Monday. We'll see about
recap.
Yeah, we'll have to see about Thursday. I got my kid in track now, so I'll keep you posted, but say at least Thursday or Friday, one or the other. We'll see. But have a great weekend. Enjoy the Super Bowl.
Drive safe.
Don't
be out here drinking and driving. Get a
have
ride.
Have
a plan.
That's
Stick
right.
to that plan. That's real talk.
Call me if you got to. You know what I'm saying?
Uber is $50. That's $9,950 cheaper than a DUI. And it's way better than going to jail.
You see the logic?
Stay healthy.
That's why we call him Mr. Logic. And I am 25. Like, subscribe, share, all that stuff. Tell Granny we said hey. And we'll see you in a few days. We love you.
We not coming back.
Peace.
Take that off the options. Retired people not coming back.
No more PT test.
We not doing it.
We out.